Hello, friends, and welcome to a special edition of the Market Report. I'm your host, Benton, and we're going to be having some fun today. Guess what today is? It is a Bitcoin all-time high day. But first, before we get started, moment of silence for Peter Schiff. We're sorry that your dreams have been broken. Bitcoin has surpassed everything that we could ever imagine. Today is a great day for the history of crypto and blockchain in general. It's electric. You can feel it. Crypto Twitter is on fire. The charts are on fire. I don't know what Pumptober did to everyone, but we are here. We are super excited to have you. Throw your comments in chat today. We are just going to be running through things ad hoc. We got Mike McGlone. We got Sam Bourgi today. We got Jordan Finiseth. Everybody's going to be chiming in on the latest, greatest news with Bitcoin today. Let's get things started here. Let's pull up a chart. And let's see what is happening right now in the markets. Looks like we have a little Bitcoin action here. I'm going to pull up my Bitcoin chart. We are hovering right around 66.8. I believe we touched 67 earlier. This is just bananas. We got Sam, we got Mike McGlone, we got Jordan. What's up, guys? How are we doing today? How are we feeling?
Hey everyone, I feel fantastic. I don't know about everyone else, but this is the type of day that I live for. So I woke up in a great mood. I saw the chart. I'm even in a better mood now. I mean, what more can you want than seeing the chart the way it is now, seeing the market pump? We hit 2.6 trillion in market cap. I'm delighted.
Yeah, I was having some bullish dreams last night, and to wake up this morning and see a new all-time high, and I just think we got a good couple months ahead of us. Looking forward to see what happens in the market.
We got looks like Cal Toro's joining in for today's show. What's up, Cal Toro? Matthew Gillespie, how we doing from Dallas, Texas? Tell us where you are viewing from today. We want to hear from you, and we want to share this news with everybody today. So, guys, real quick, like, what is going on? Was the ETF the precipice behind this huge move up over the last couple of days? Sam, what are your thoughts about the latest news in the U.S. about the ETF for Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think that we've had the bullish momentum now for several months. So this move higher doesn't really surprise me per se, because we've seen the technicals improve. We've seen the fundamentals improve. You take a look at the on-chain metrics. You take a look at what's happening perhaps when it comes to monetary policy, Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation, adoption. All the fundamentals were in line. I think the ETF added rocket fuel, right? Because the ETFs that were approved, they were futures based, which it's not a spot ETF, but still it provides that extra that extra incentive for Main Street to adopt Bitcoin. So I think that the ETF provided that rocket fuel, and I think it had a record day in its debut. So I think that's been the impetus. But the bullish narrative, and I'm sure Jordan would going to go into the charts about that, but the bullish narrative has been building for months now.
Yeah, the bullish narrative has been building months, whether it's El Salvador. It's the bullish narrative started with China kicking out like all the Bitcoin miners. they like kicked it off, they took it down, and then we started going back up. America's like, oh, I'll pick up that slack. And yeah, it makes sense. If America is becoming the biggest Bitcoin miner in the world, why not have a Bitcoin ETF? And I think a regular spot Bitcoin ETF probably not too far on the horizon, following this big the one that was just released. So I think we got a lot of room to run here in the future, and we're in uncharted territory, so it's going to be exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So, and like for me, it's like you see this is kind of like the first couple dominoes to fall in the US, and it's like what happens once 10, 15, 20, 30 other ETFs get approved in the US. It's like it seems like if this is only happening with these couple ETFs getting approved, like is that going to absolutely just rocket fuel us all the way up to 100K and like very quickly? Like Sam, is that the case with more approvals pending? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, if you take a look at what happened with gold, once the gold ETF was approved way back in the day, I mean, it went on a multi-year bull market in that case, right? Because it provides a more seamless entry into the asset class, through the ETF market. Not everyone is going to be comfortable with going out and, joining Coinbase or Kraken and opening up their own account and buying Bitcoin spot. They want to do it through an ETF. I think it just provides more access points. And it seems like the dominoes are falling. I mean, we saw the ETF approval in Canada, which was a massive, massive success. So it was only a matter of time before the US came around. And we saw now with the futures, there's many, many others that are coming down the pipeline. And Grayscale also announced that they want to convert their fund into an ETF, which is also huge. So I think we're lining up, and we are in uncharted territories. And I think that now that the all-time high has been breached, I mean, it's really difficult to say where we're going to go, but it seems like everything is lining up for a really, really strong Q4.
Yeah, and so I want to check in real quick with crypto Twitter. Let's see what everyone's talking about out there. We got Pomp, we got the classic Bitcoin meme, the 1K Bitcoin, 50K Bitcoin, 100K Bitcoin. Is it going to happen soon? We're going to find out. Let's see what else is happening out there. Michael Saylor, the halls of eternity echo with the cries of those who sold their Bitcoin. Just classic. The other person I wanted to highlight here on crypto Twitter is Tech Dev. He has been giving his TA on his Twitter account. If you see here, this is where we currently are. And he puts this fractal, I guess, from 2017 that he frequently talks about as being a potential route that we could take here in 2021. We're going to see what happens. But I'm going to go real quick back to the chart. I mean, I just want to highlight real quick. This is the start of October right here. And these are the daily candles. It is just green, 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 green all the way up. And you just love to see it. It's just like one of the prettiest sights.
Yeah, I'm excited about what's going forward. And like I said, with all these new ETFs possibly coming out, I see a lot of institutional money, people with 401ks and pensions probably going to be trying to get into Bitcoin. Is that going to send it to 100? I don't know. I'm an altcoin person, so I'm like, yeah, let's see it shoot up and then spill over into the altcoins. That would be nice, but we'll see what's going to happen here in the next year or so, or year, months, whatever.
So it looks like we have a question from the audience here. It says, you guys brought on Mr. Gareth Soloway to your channel, and he just tweeted he is shorting Bitcoin right now. What are your thoughts about this? Are we shorting Bitcoin right now, Sam?
Hey, well, that's a bold move. You know, you want to short it, be my guest. I don't think it's going to end very well for you, because everything that we've been talking about for years now about the Bitcoin narrative is actually coming to fruition. So if you want to short the hardest asset class of all time, be my guest. You'll end up with a lot more fiat if you succeed, and then you'll have a bigger problem on your hand later on down the road. But I wouldn't short Bitcoin under any circumstance, not for philosophical reasons as well, for practical reasons. I think that when the king starts moving, as it's doing now, it's very difficult to stop. And as Jordan said, he's into altcoins. Well, if you're patient, it'll eventually spill over into altcoins. I'm guessing very soon.
Now, what are your thoughts about the people who sold their Bitcoin already, Jordan? What do you have any words of sympathy for those folks?
Just don't FOMO. Like if it's running, like try to find something that hasn't started running yet and get back in, because like getting on the short thing. Who is it? Michael Burry, I think that's his name, from The Big Short. He was talking about shorting Bitcoin a while ago. Then he deleted his account and came back. He's like, I didn't short it. I bought some coins. So yeah, it's not a wise move at this point. The market's a little too hot. Like we just got to a new all-time high. Like historically speaking, we don't just turn back around and just dump down forever. So I think we got a good run up here before we got any kind of selling that needs to go on. That's not investment advice. That's just my own personal opinion.
Yeah, so I guess from like the greater landscape perspective here, it's like, what does this mean right now for altcoins? We see Bitcoin running, but like, Sam, can you provide any like historical evidence or previous things that have happened what happens when Bitcoin runs up and then what happens to altcoins thereafter?
Yeah, I mean, the great thing with Bitcoin is that when you look at the halving cycles, we're able to kind of predict how the market is going to unfold. Because Bitcoin's monetary policy is based on mathematics. So if we look at what happened back in 2017, is what you see Bitcoin make a pump, and then the altcoins follow several weeks later. Right now, we don't have an altcoin season, as you can see. Bitcoin is clearly taking up all the spotlight. Last I checked, the Bitcoin dominance index was around 48%. Back in May, it bottomed around 39% as the altcoins were blasting off. I expect that to happen again. Bitcoin's dominance will eventually fall as altcoins start to pump again. Right now, the alts seem to be simmering, behind the scenes. Once this big pump comes for Bitcoin and it begins to consolidate, I think money will start flowing into altcoins as well.
Yeah, I think even historically, you'll see a lot of people, once Bitcoin starts running like this, people start selling their altcoins to try and run into Bitcoin, which a lot of times is kind of defeats the purpose because they lose some of the gains that they could potentially get. They don't really get the big pop up in Bitcoin, and then the altcoins start running a little bit later and they haven't gotten back in. So like at this point, if you haven't had your bets kind of already placed, start looking. I would personally start looking more at the altcoins just because they haven't started running yet, and historically speaking, they always do after Bitcoin has a nice little pop. So yeah, it's going to be exciting.
So I guess where is the top right now with kind of the certain climate environment that we're in? Where do you all see the top being? Sam, we'll start with you.
Well, for me, I'm less concerned with the number. I'm more concerned with the time frame, right? Because it's going to be very difficult to predict the exact top of Bitcoin. I expect it to fully be in the six-figure level, but predicting, the exact top is going to be virtually impossible. We've seen forecasts anywhere from 100 to 500K. I personally, in my opinion, I think we'll peak between 150 and 200 perhaps during this cycle. But what I'm really looking for is going to be the timing wise. When do we peak? So there's a couple of theories about this, but the 4-year cycle theory that I've been following since December of 2018 says we could peak anywhere between December and March, maybe even into Q2. So for me, I'm looking at it from a timing perspective. I think that Q4 is going to be absolutely explosive. It's going to be really interesting to see in December what's going to happen, because you might see a sell-off in December as people reallocate, as they rebalance, as they get ready for tax season. And the question becomes, is the peak going to be in December, or are we going to see another run-up in the January, February, March? That's going to be the big question. So for me, I'm looking mostly at timing, and I'm timing right now a Q1 top, possibly into Q2.
Chat, let's hear from you. What do you guys think? When is the top coming? Leave your comments in there. We'll pull them up. Let's see what your predictions are. Jordan, what is your prediction kind of time frame looking at heading in towards the end of the year? And then where do you think a top line price is for Bitcoin right now?
Yeah, this is tricky. It's getting dicey now. I've actually been thinking about maybe starting to cash out some here once it gets over 70K, just for several reasons, including the fact that if you've ever been around when the market really starts getting off and everybody's trying to sell, you can't upload to exchanges. You can't try and use Uniswap, any of these things. They're clogged to the max, right? So I'm kind of trying to get out slowly over the next few months while everybody's piling in. I'm just going to be like, yeah, here's my bag that I bought at 5 cents and it's $5 now. Yeah, take it. Just because, again, like we're really focused, like, yeah, crypto's Bitcoin. I'm like, don't forget, people, there's a wider world that has a whole lot of issues that is facing right now that we're not just going to be able to solve with a Bitcoin ETF kind of a thing. So there's lots of pressures, I think, that could potentially come from outside the cryptocurrency ecosystem that could just put us all back in the bear of 2018. So I'm just on the conservative side, looking to get out here in the next couple of months, at least portions of my holdings, just to be safe. And I don't know, like everybody's saying Bitcoin's going to 100,000. I'm like, man, that would be so perfect. It went to like 99,000 and just dropped back to 50. Oh man.
And I mean, so like in previous bull runs, we've seen 20, 30% pullback. So I think on the way up to whatever the top could be, if it's, 200K, 300K, like we could see retracements where maybe we go up to 90K, pull back to 70, and then we go back up. And so like, I think that's one of the things that we have to keep in mind is like, you're going to see these retracements on the way up. We don't know where the top is, but when we get to that top, I think it'll be a strong move downward, whether that's, early next year or at the end of this year. So I'm betting on 6 figures very quickly. We are in Pumptober, Uptober, however you want to call it. So I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe we see some Bitcoin magic, some 6-figure Bitcoin magic here before the end of the month. But I think realistically before the end of the year.
From the psychology part of this, just remember what it was like back in May, April. Bitcoin was going up. Everybody's like, yeah, and then all of a sudden, like within a couple weeks, like a week, it tanked. Oh, and we all got like gut punched, like, oh, it happened again. Don't let that happen again, okay? Just check yourselves, folks.
So Adrian asked, so should I take profits right now? What are we thinking on this? Not financial advice, but if you're looking at your own portfolio right now, like what are you doing, Sam?
I think that's what I'm doing is, it's a separate subject, but but no, the prudent thing to do, of course, is to do what Jordan said, which is to take profits on the way up, because you have to respect this market. You don't want to get caught with your pants down again, as we saw back in April and May. I mean, that decline that we saw in April and May was gut wrenching, is to put it mildly. I mean, I couldn't believe that 55% drawdown in a bull market, right? At that point, a drop like that makes you question your narrative. because you can't but question your narrative when it drops that severely. You know, a 20-30% correction during bull markets is normal, but as we've seen, this cycle has been anything but normal. So absolutely, it does make sense to take profits on the way up. Ultimately, you want to recoup your initial investment amount, right? If you do that, then you're dealing with house money at the end of the day, and then you're able to kind of more clearly ride the market up if it does go up. But when you're so heavily invested in the market, you're so emotionally, psychologically tied to it, your earnings, your money is all in it, and you're not taking profits, you're not going to be able to stomach those 30-40% declines. So take some off the table. That's the prudent thing to do. And then you'll leave some, you know, in your account that if it does reach those lofty levels, you'll still be able to be exposed to that. But absolutely, having that conservative edge is going to be really important, because you have to respect this market, right?
Exactly. And a good friend of mine told me this. He's like, have certain targets in mind and put your investment, your principal, and associate it with something physical. So if your initial investment was the same price as a vehicle or a car, it's like, oh my gosh, you know, my car amount is now I have 3 cars or 2 cars. And so when you associate your investment with something physical and tangible, it makes you really, really realize like how important it is to attain that principal from whatever you're looking at inside of your portfolio. So like real quick, I want to pull up the Coin 360. I don't think there's been a day where I have looked at this website and I have seen this much green. This is green, 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 5,000 different shades of green. We are up, up, up. The other thing is too, crypto market cap just cracked $2.63 trillion. It's just bananas, absolutely bananas right now. This is an article from Cointelegraph written by the one and only Sam Bourgi, who's actually with us. So if you have questions for the writer themselves, he's here on the show. This is an article that he wrote about. Sam, do you have any insights in regards to Spark Notes in regards to this headline here?
Well, for me, I love looking at the market cap because it provides a good barometer for the overall health of the market. So to give you some insights, we peaked at around 2.5 trillion back in May when the altcoins were rallying. Then the crash that we saw brought the total market cap below 1.2 trillion, literally cut in half. So we went from 2.5 trillion down to 1.2, all the way back up now to 2.6. If that's not a V-shaped recovery, I don't know what is. But that is really why it's so important to do what Jordan said, and that's to kind of take profits or to have targets in mind, because this is an extremely volatile market. I mean, you can't have these types of gains without volatility. So just taking a look at that chart or taking a look at how the market cap has gone up and down, leads you to kind of be weary about how this market can turn. But overall, 2.63 trillion, I expect it to go higher. That's just been a wonderful, wonderful month and a half now overall for the crypto market. Despite the September volatility that we saw, the fundamentals really brought us to where we are now.
Yeah, the mental game is really one of the biggest things to focus on when it comes to like locking in profits and stuff like that. Because we can all think we're going to sell when it's time, but when things are just mooning and you're like, oh, it's going to go up another 100%, it's really hard to sell. So I've heard lots of people say, even before you buy any token, decide what price you're going to sell it at. Just and stick to your guns. Don't there's rules. Trading, the one thing I've learned is the people that stick to the rules do the best. They perform best over time. So stick to your rules. And we mentioned this previously on another show, and Kyle Martin here kind of talked about it. I don't think we're going to get those 80% pullbacks like we did in the previous 4-year cycles because of the fact that there's so much institutional money in here. I just don't see that happening. I don't know. What do you think, Sam? Is it possible that we're still going to see that?
I disagree with that. I strongly disagree with. I mean, Kyle, it's a very common opinion to have, and it could be true. I don't think that the days of an 80% correction are behind. I think we will see another massive drawdown. The exact percentage, who knows? But as I remind everyone, we saw a 55% retracement during a bull market. So you don't think we're going to actually get a bigger drop during a bear market? In my opinion, we absolutely will. It's just the nature of the beast. And again, look out for December. December is going to be a very interesting month because all these institutions, you're going to start seeing some profit taking perhaps in December for tax reasons, for rebalancing purposes. So December is going to be the fork in the road where we have to really determine, which way is this market going? Is it going to continue the bull run into the new year, or are we going to peak? I think December is really going to challenge a lot of us in that outlook, because when you see another massive drawdown like I'm expecting due to these reasons, it's going to be difficult to kind of predict where the market is going to go. So again, that really brings us back to profit taking, making sure that we are on the way up, having exact targets that we want to sell at in that case. So for me, I think that we'll see much more volatility. I don't think the institutions will change that at all, in my opinion.
So real quick, Sam, to your point here, friend of the show, Yashu Gola, wrote an article saying next Bitcoin price crash will be shallower than 80%. Not to play devil's advocate here, but he was saying that the Pantera Capital CEO says this, and in detail, this report that was released notes that recent periods of BTC price drops have been less severe than in the past. So we're going to see what shakes out, I think, by the end of the year. We have Luciana writing in today, and I want to pull this up real quick while we're on this topic. What about ETH at 4K, folks? ETH is surging too. So it's not only Bitcoin, but ETH also broke an all-time high today. We're looking at this wedge here on my chart. We can see the yellow lines, which is a volume-weighted average price level. These things are kind of like an average weighted price for what Ethereum's at. So we saw this bounce here, and that was right again at the end of September, heading up into October, and we've seen only up since the beginning of October for Ethereum. I do want to kind of like touch on this topic because in regards to Ethereum, like what does this mean for Ethereum? Are we going to 10K? Sam, what are your thoughts of where Ethereum could head next?
Well, my targets for ETH have been the high five figures, again, based on previous cycle. But you take a look at, there's a lot of ETH haters out there when it comes to, there's a lot of ETH killers and all this stuff, and a lot of Bitcoin maximalists who like to, give ETH a hard time. And ETH does have a lot of issues. I'm not saying it doesn't. But the thing with ETH is that where are all the developers going? Where are all the products being developed on? Where's the DeFi revolution happening? It's all happening on ETH. So as demand for ETH continues to grow, I think the price is going to skyrocket. I see a very high level peak for ETH. It's hard to predict where, but I think 10,000 is going to be the low end of my range when it comes to where I think ETH will eventually peak during the cycle.
Jordan, what say you, man?
During this cycle, I have no idea. I'm not going to give a price target on ETH, but we have seen a lot of, like, you've been seeing the institutions even starting to give it a little more attention over Bitcoin because of the NFTs and the DeFi space explosion on there. Like Sam mentioned, it does have quite a few problems as far as like scalability and whatnot, but all networks kind of do. The ones that can scale don't have a lot of people on them using them to prove that they can scale. So it's just going to be an interesting show how this kind of plays out over the years. But with the kind of deflationary pressures put on by the upgrade, people staking it on ETH2 now, which still ain't going to roll out. We don't know when that's going to roll out. So all the people that stake their ETH into that are just waiting for that to finally launch. So all those tokens are locked up for probably another year or so. I think, yeah, those are all going to put positive pressures on ETH. But once this market turns, they're all going to go down. But it's fun now. We're all in high spirits now. Just make sure you take your profits, folks.
Yeah. Exactly right. And that's also, I think you bring up another important point here is like the markets are so psychological. So when you get this euphoric feeling of excitement, you have to understand everyone else is thinking the same thing. And so like you almost want to really take that into account when you're looking at things. And I guess the overall kind of like market sentiment. We want to kind of point out here, we got everybody tuning in from around the world today. We appreciate you guys jumping on. Kyle Martin has been awesome in chat today, chiming in with questions. We have Joshua Clark, Cal Toro, Luciana, Crypto Doctor. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. Send us your questions. What do you guys want to know? Where do you think ETH will be at the end of the year? I think right now, and to correct myself earlier, I'd said ETH hit an all-time high. ETH did not hit an all-time high. It cracked 4,000. Previous all-time high, I think, was 4,400. So self-edit there. But where do you all think that ETH is going to head? I think we're going to see 10K, and we're going to see it very, very quickly. High side, who knows? But I think it'll be an interesting month ahead. And guys, what are our thoughts about an Ethereum ETF? Is this next to come, or are we going to see just a flood of Bitcoin ETFs next? Sam, what do you think?
I imagine.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the last ETF, Ether-based ETF that was filed. I think it's only a matter of time before we see that, because you take a look at, I mean, CoinShares releases a lot of weekly inflows report on the institutional side, and we see that institutions are buying Bitcoin. They're also buying Ethereum. They're buying Polkadot recently, as well as Cardano. We saw a slight drawdown on the ETH inflows last week, but overall, Ethereum products are really popular among institutions. So I think that it's only a matter of time before an ETH-based ETF is approved. I'd have to check to see what are coming down the pipeline. I don't know if there's any exact timing. I think you're going to start to see right now the dominoes fall on the Bitcoin ETFs before we eventually get the ETH ETFs as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Jordan, what about you, man?
We'll probably see more Bitcoin ETFs, probably even a Bitcoin spot ETF before we see an Ethereum one. But it is catching fire with the institutions and stuff, so I don't think it'll be too long once Bitcoin really gets established with its ETFs for them to relaunch Ethereum ETF. And as far as the altcoin, what I think of the good altcoins, then you got Solana, Avalanche. Those types are they rising up in popularity? I've been using them a little bit more just because of their speed and lower cost transactions. I like, so Solana, Avalanche. There's a couple more that are slipping my mind right now, but we'll see how this all goes. Right now, the focus is on Bitcoin and Ethereum, but I'm just waiting for the spillover to come over into the altcoins, which always happens. So that's gonna be fun.
You love to see it. Sam, do you have any favorite altcoins that you are monitoring or looking at right now?
Yeah, I have a large speculative bag of altcoins that I like to play with. Obviously, when it comes to these, you really want to focus on the high value projects. I've always had a strong penchant for VeChain. I mean, VeChain might not be the decentralized philosophical follower of Bitcoin, but VeChain is attempting to solve a lot of the real world challenges when it comes to logistics. I've had VeChain on my radar for several years. Same thing with, I think Chainlink is actually quite undervalued right now, given where we are in the market structure. So those are the two that I'm really looking at. There are some others that are, much, much lower cap in terms of ranking, but those are two to really keep an eye on. There's also some DeFi ones that you want to also keep track of. But right now, those are the two that I'm really, really enjoying focusing on and seeing the partnerships that are coming in line. And again, they haven't really moved all that much. You take a look at VeChain, you take a look at Chainlink, Engine Coin, several others. They're well off their all-time highs that we saw back in May. So this has really been a Bitcoin-driven market right now, with ETH following suit. A lot of these low-cap blue chips or these lower-cap blue chips, they haven't had their time in the sun yet. But I think that's going to change very soon.
Polkadot's likely to get a nice little bid here too with their parachain auctions coming up too. But you got to lock them up for like 2 years. That's a long time. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm looking at a lot of altcoins. I love altcoins. I'm big Bitcoin maxi. I would probably say, half of my portfolio is Bitcoin. The other half is altcoins. But I just love dabbling in all the different niches. More specifically, DeFi tokens is kind of my wheelhouse. So we're looking at, like Jordan mentioned, I'm looking at Solana. I'm looking at Harmony. I love ETH and the potential with that, like ETH 2.0 coming up. And so, like, I think it's, for me, I'm in the DeFi world. So those are kind of altcoins that I'm constantly monitoring. I want to pull up this one, though. And the other question I have for you guys while we're on this topic is, like, how important is tokenomics? So I think sometimes we get lost where we're like, oh, this coin is only 3 cents and it can moon all the way to $1. Are tokenomics or token supplies things that you're looking at when it comes to particular coins? Sam?
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't matter if a coin is 3 cents if its supply is 1 quadrillion, right?
Mm-hmm.
The 3 cents, it matters a lot less. So it's important to try to gauge how many coins are in circulation, what's the total supply of coins, because that can kind of give you a gauge for how high the price can go, right? So, for example, a coin like VeChain, I think if it hits $1, it's at 12 cents right now. If it hits $1, its market cap is going to be what? I think 70 billion, 80 billion at that point, given that it has a high circulating supply, or much higher than some of these other coins. So the tokenomics are really important if you're trying to gauge how high the price is going to go, or if you're trying to benchmark that coin with another coin. So you can't do that without looking at the supply. And you go to any website, CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, any website, it'll tell you what the circulating supply is, so that you can kind of gauge what the price could be in a bull market scenario.
Yeah, I agree. You gotta look at that circulating supply and then multiply it out by, like, if we think it's gonna get to $1, what would that make the whole market cap? Because if it's something that's completely ridiculous, it's really out of whack. But like for me, this is more like getting into the psychology game of it, because these low price tokens they're not, to me, they're not long-term holds. They're like a bunch of people are gonna buy these because they're low price. So I'm gonna get in before they do. It's gonna go up and then I'm gonna get out. Like that's how I kind of look at them. Like for those, and then I pick projects more like a Bitcoin or Ethereum or Polkadot, Solana, that I think are going to have long-term viability to put any kind of profits in or invest in long-term. But yeah, I look, if I'm looking at, I'm going to get a bunch of this token because it's so small, I'm not thinking of holding it long-term. I'm thinking of like everybody and all the people think the same thing. So when they all think the same thing and do the same thing and get in, that's when I'm going to get out.
Yeah. If you haven't liked and subscribed, Cointelegraph, we're here. Market report Thursdays. Today's a special edition. You guys get double doses of the market report this week. Like and subscribe. We are here. We're putting out some of the most fire content on our YouTube channel. We got documentaries. We got live shows. We got market talk. Whatever it is, crypto, we got it. Cointelegraph. Let's subscribe. Smash the notification button so you know when we're going live like this. Again, this is just like on the spot. We're Johnny on the spot today. We love it. The other question I want to get to here, Lawson White in the audience, we appreciate you chiming in. If you haven't chimed in with your question, make sure you do it because we're going to be answering them here. So thoughts on Tezos? I'm curious actually to hear what you both think. Is this an ecosystem you all have looked at? What are your thoughts, Jordan? We'll start with you here.
Yeah, I've liked Tezos. I think I've gotten in at like 30 or 40 cents way back when and been holding it and baking it since then. I know they've gotten quite a bit of adoption from the French government, I believe, and they've had some kind of NFT things roll out recently and stuff. It got a nice bump. When I was looking at the chart, and somebody that I kind of respect was kind of concerned about the chart for Tezos, but still long term, I think it'll perform well. I'm not looking to sell it anytime soon, but I don't think it'll be as big of a multiplier as some of the tokens out there, but it's a solid project in my opinion.
Yeah, what do they say? Tezos till you Bezos? Isn't that the saying? Yeah, I actually I got into Tezos a long time ago, and I got it in at those low levels. I was expecting a lot more in terms of adoption. I didn't quite see it. I saw the competition being too strong. I sold my Tezos bag quite a while ago. But the thing is, in a bull market, like it's really hard to pick losers. If you're investing in any of the top 100 coins, for example, during a bull market scenario, there's a very good chance you're going to come out a winner. And I mean, Tezos is a viable project. It has a pretty big ecosystem. It's not as speculative as some of the other coins are, but I cycled those profits into other coins quite a while ago for Tezos. So I didn't capitalize on the recent pump that we saw a few months ago. But overall, I was exposed to it for quite a while. And I think that we are starting to see adoption, as Jordan mentioned.
Yeah. And I think I've explored the Tezos ecosystem as well. In years previous, I was kind of involved with Tezos and a couple different fast shifts, but I think it's a great project, undervalued a little bit. I know Tim Draper is big on the Tezos ecosystem, so he always likes to kind of like pump that narrative a bit about Tezos. But just to do like a quick recap today, we appreciate everyone that tuned in, and we're going to be signing off here shortly. Bitcoin smashing all-time high 67K. ETH is absolutely ripping. Crypto market cap at a new all-time high. ETFs in the States are just in fuego right now. They are just popping off. Who knows how many more we'll see in the next few months. And that's kind of the recap for today's little mini market report. We appreciate everyone for tuning in. If you haven't liked and subscribed, go ahead and do so now. Guys, closing thoughts. What do you have to leave with our folks watching and tuning in today?
Try and stay level-headed over the next few months. It's going to get wild, but again, take your profits, folks. That's not investment advice.
Yeah, for a lot of us who've been in this market for a long time now, everything that we've worked so hard for is finally starting to pay off. But again, it's important not to be overexposed. So make sure you have a game plan, whatever it is. Are you on the 4-year cycle? Do you have an intermediate time frame? Are you day trading? Whatever your outlook is, your risk should reflect that. And enjoy the ride up, but again, be responsible. And we'll have all the latest news for you as it comes out. So be sure to check us out.
Exactly right. And make sure you all tune in on Thursday. We got Michael Vandepop. It's going to be huge. You're not going to want to miss it. 12 p.m. Thursday. Like and subscribe, Cointelegraph. We appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in, asking your questions. We love to see it. We love you all. Until next time, deuces.